Good afternoon, everyone. Sri Suresh Mohan, who is presiding over this afternoon's function, the Chief Sevak of the CEC, the Secretary of the Vidyalaya Board of Management, Mr. Shekharan, Srimati Veena R., your Principal, Srimati Smita, the Vice Principal, Head Girl Nitya Rajesh, Head Boy Sajid Satish, and that wonderful invocation was performed by Jaya Surya, former principals and vice principals, teachers, parents, students, friends. I hope that covers everybody. As we say here, Ella Vikavedi Vinidamaya Namaskar. It's such a delight for me to be here, and I'm actually surprised and embarrassed that it has taken me 15 years since becoming your MP to actually find it possible to come and participate in an annual day of the Chinmaya School. 15 years is a long time, not as long as your 44, and this being your 44th annual day is a very special occasion. I look forward to being around, God willing, for the 50th. And there's much that you can be proud of, as we have seen in the annual report that was presented to us today. But the reason I was a bit surprised that it took me so long is because I have been a great admirer of Swami Chinmayananda for a very long time. Started off really as a great admirer of Swami Vivekananda, whom I read as a very impressionable teenager and was totally impressed by. As one of these English language educated urban youth of India, I had always feared a little bit being disconnected from the roots of my culture and my religion. And it was thanks to Swami Vivekananda, who, as you know, taught and preached and expressed himself in English, that I was able to have first-hand access to the wonderful wisdom of Advaita Vedanta and our faith. And I must say, for me, it was a hugely enlightening exposure to the culture and the faith and the religion that I saw practiced daily around me by my devout parents and, of course, in our society around us. And then I learned about this Malayali Swami, who had followed in the footsteps of Swami Vivekananda by taking the message of the Vedanta to the masses in English. And this was none other than Swami Chinmayananda, who had been born in Ernakulam as Balakrishna Menon, who had grown up here. As a young man, a radical and a hothead, he had joined the nationalist movement. The British put out a warrant for his arrest. He fled arrest and went to Punjab and organized nationalist events there. Got arrested for his pains, thrown into jail. There he caught typhus, which was a very serious disease. The British were so scared of typhus, for which they had no cure, that he and other typhus patients were thrown out of jail into the street to die, where he was found by a kind gentleman, an Indian Christian as it happens, who took him to his home and nursed him to health. And that's how Balakrishna Menon came back to life and at the same time was able to serve a free India. He first began as a journalist, and he wrote for a newspaper that Jawaharlal Nehru had founded called the National Herald. And even there he wrote some very interesting radical pieces in praise of the postman, in praise of the craftsmanship of the mochi, the cobbler. That was the kind of thinking he had. And he traveled to the Shivananda ashram, intending to write an expose of sadhus and swamis. You know, Jawaharlal Nehru had been quite critical of the role of religion and religious superstition in our modern life. He's a big believer in the scientific temper. And so the National Herald was very happy to accept Chinmayananda or Balakrishna Menon's idea of writing an expose of the sadhus, and to quote Swami Chinmayananda's own words, he said, I wanted to find out how these sadhus are bluffing the people. And he went there for a day or two and got completely captivated by Swami Shivananda, by what the mission, the Divine Life Society was teaching. He stayed on for several days, took longer leave, spent a month, and eventually gave up journalism, gave up his normal life, gave up being Balakrishna Menon, and became a sannyasi under the name given to him by Swami Shivananda, which was Swami Chinmayananda. Now what is Chinmaya? You all know what Chinmaya means. It means pure knowledge. And what could be more appropriate to name a school than for pure knowledge? But there is, of course, much more to the teachings of Swami Chinmayananda than pure knowledge. He was a great disseminator of knowledge. In fact, he was famous for what he called his Jnana Yajnas. He would travel throughout the country and eventually throughout the world, giving lectures on the Vedanta, on the Upanishads, on moral values, and he did so in a delightful English. He spoke such beautiful English, and he wrote such beautiful English, published 95 books, and he was able to impart his lessons to people all over the country as well as abroad. I had the pleasure as a child of being dragged off by my parents to one of his hugely attended lectures in Bombay in the 1960s. But subsequently, I actually had the privilege of being in a much smaller audience in Switzerland when I was serving in Geneva with the United Nations and hearing him speak. What a remarkable man, what a remarkable speaker he was. He was tireless and worked himself to death. He had heart condition, he was frequently ill, and still till his last breath, he was out there traveling, giving speeches, addressing conferences, and sadly passed away at what we today think of as a relatively young age of 77 of a heart attack, which was not his first heart attack, he'd had many. But he never stopped. As he said very famously, in a motto that I actually have adopted for myself also, he said, if I rest, I rust. So he didn't believe in rest. He worked the whole time. But one of the most important things that Swami Chinmayananda taught us was about how to improve ourselves as human beings. And that is why his mission is such an important message for all of us in schools, because I have always believed, and as you can imagine, as an MP, I give dozens of school addresses, Founders' Day addresses, convocation addresses, and I always tell them that it is very important not just to produce good students, but to produce good human beings. And that is actually a lesson that Swami Chinmayananda regularly taught us. He famously said, it is not what is behind you or what is ahead of you that matters. It is what is within you that matters. And that lesson, if you and the teachers and principals here are imparting that lesson to your students every day, then you are fulfilling the core precept of Swami Chinmayananda, which is about the importance of knowing yourself. Very often I'm asked, when I address school groups, especially school leaders, to give them a message, some advice, some encouragement as they leave school and go out into the world. And my message is actually this very simple message. Know yourself. Know yourself. Understand what you are capable of. Understand what your qualities are. There is no human being in the world who doesn't have some good qualities. And what Swami Chinmayananda taught us was to find out those qualities within ourselves and be centered in them. Do not let other people's judgments influence and sway us. Swami Chinmayananda had another famous line where he said, do not put the keys of your happiness in somebody else's pocket. We politicians, we have no choice. The keys of our happiness are in the pockets of our voters. But for all of you, it's a very important lesson. Find happiness within yourself, know who you are, and be the best you that you can possibly be. That's how you will fulfill the divine purpose you have on this planet, to make a difference, to lead a life of meaningful achievement, and at the same time to be the kind of human being who will be a credit to our society. We began with an invocation, and these invocations have meaning and profound meaning in our culture and in our lives. Even simple rituals have meaning. You may have noticed that when our Blessed Secretary was about to light the lamp, I guided his hand away in a different direction. Why was that? Because even the simple ritual of lighting the lamp conveys a very specific message. It symbolizes the sun rising in the east and going around the globe. And we all know that the earth revolves around the sun. In the process, the light of the sun shines from the east around the whole globe. And that is what this ritual is meant to symbolize. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. From darkness, let there be light. And that has to proceed in that cyclical way that the sun and blesses the earth with, and that the earth gains from going around the sun. So it's not just a simple ritual of lighting a lamp. Even that has a larger meaning, a scientific meaning in innovation. And that is the beauty of much of our ancient traditions. Here in the Chinmaya mission, you are anchored in those traditions. And at the same time, I'm very pleased to see you are looking to the future. You are being trained from class 1 to 9 in AI and robotics. I'm hugely impressed. And that is very necessary. Why is it necessary? Because we are living in a world where the pace of change is dizzyingly rapid. So rapid that the Oxford Martin School did a study a few years ago which said that 30% of the jobs in the world in 2030 will be jobs that don't exist today. Can you imagine? How will the school train children for jobs that don't yet exist? There is no textbook about them because jobs have not been created, there can't be any teaching about them. And my simple message to the teachers is do not teach the children what to think, teach them how to think. It is that how to think that will actually enable them to be equipped to face the unpredictable future of the 21st century. If they know and have the confidence, as we saw in all these wonderful achievements, the extracurricular activities, the quizzes, the debates, the speaking contest, the theatre, children have been encouraged in the Chinmaya school to develop self-confidence in their own talents and their abilities, to argue, to discuss, to learn for themselves, and to compete in a constructive way with others. These qualities will be far more important than the old-fashioned idea of mugging up your textbook and regurgitating it in your examination. That alone is not enough, because the big examination called life is going to ask you questions that you have not prepared for when you studied for your examination. Einstein is supposed to have said that the mark of an educated mind is what is left behind in your head when you've forgotten everything you've studied for your examinations. That is the kind of mind that the Chinmaya school is trying to produce. I want to congratulate the teachers, the students, the principals and the administrators who are all selflessly volunteering to guide the school along the principles and precepts of Swami Chinmayananda in the direction of greater glory. I wish you all more success. Congratulations on the 100% results that you've all been having. May you continue to keep up the 100% and have even more distinctive first class and other honor students. But above all, may you produce good human beings from the school who will be good citizens of a forward-thinking India. Once again, my congratulations on this Founders' Day, and I'm very pleased to say that I have officially inaugurated this occasion. Jai Hind.